Then we get to 0505, which is our overall partner evaluation. Okay, now what's coming through on this working paper is a summary of a number of key items that we have in the audit file. Okay, so it will start talking to me about, firstly, materiality. And what I often say in my training sessions is that this document itself, if you print this document and take it with you when you go and discuss the financial statements with management, it covers you in quite a few things. And it might be nice to get a signature from your client on this working paper to put in your manual file. I know that a lot of you are going to try and keep electronic, but there's always going to need to be one or two manual documents in your file that you're going to need to have for signatures, for instance, and manual financial statements. But they can sign this off, and it covers you that you've had this discussion with management because it's talking about my materiality. Now, there's a lot of debate around materiality, and I've mentioned one or two things before, but at the end of the day, if management feels that your materiality is too high, it's something you need to consider for next year. But very often, owner-managed businesses, that materiality can be greater because they aren't really, it's going to take a heck of a lot before they make different economic decisions in their business. It then also just confirms, okay, in this particular file I hadn't completed it in document 04, but it's confirming what my accounting framework is. Is it IFRS? Is it IFRS SME? Whatever the case might be. Okay, and then just a hyperlink available to your audit report to go and confirm that your audit report is actually talking about the correct framework. It then also will pull through any subsequent events that you may have identified, and it's from action 1, 2, and 3 in your subsequent events working paper. And again, has my audit report had to deal with these subsequent events? Depending on the nature, it might be not applicable, but it's just going and assessing what those subsequent events are that you've documented. It also then pulls through information from your going concern, and it asks you to make a final assessment about disclosure of going concern in the financial statements. And at this point you'd be having a discussion with management, and maybe this is actually the discussion that you have with management about going concerns, that you can go back and document it fully in 0315, depending on how you're flowing through. Okay, document actual fraud matters from the fraud working paper. I haven't completed that document completely, but this will then pull through any items where actual fraud has been identified, and again, this is where we discuss these with management. So if the working paper on fraud matters was asking you to document where you've discussed it with management, maybe you can hyperlink it to 0505 because this is the document you're using to have that discussion. Okay, reportable irregularities, again, I haven't completed it adequately, so it's just pulling through a 0, but there was one reportable irregularity. It'll document it here for me, and there we can go and communicate. Sorry, what I also just want to point out, for instance, on the subsequent events, because there are none, we do leave these lines open so that you can go and add. If you're not using our template, you can still use this to document subsequent events. Okay. Was there an EQCR required? Okay, and if so, here's a place for a reference to the work that was done by the EQCR. And then there's a whole section on looking at the audit reports. What was my audit report in the prior year? Okay, was it unmodified, qualified, adverse, disclaimer? Okay, and document reasons for the modification. Document any emphasis of matters. Document any other matters that were disclosed on your audit report last year, and then the current year audit report is just confirming what framework you should be using. Again, because I haven't discussed the appropriate framework, IFRS, IFRS SME or other, it's telling me it's an ISA 700 report. It would usually be an ISA, sorry, it's telling me it's an ISA 800 report. It would usually be ISA 700. Was the correct audit report used in draft? What type of audit opinion was given in the current year? And obviously you'd be sitting with your financial statements with the actual final audit report in. So this is just a comparison of, look, what had we reported last year in my audit report? What is going on in the current year? if you have a lot of emphasis of matters last year, you should be looking maybe should there be emphasis of matters in the current year. It's just a for each of these, it's just asking you, have you considered these items in the audit report for the current year, because we had qualifications last year, if it's applicable. Then also, once you've completed your summary of identified misstatements, any unadjusted misstatements will pull through to this working paper. So this is again why I say take this with you to that meeting, management signs it, and then you've got proof that you've discussed these unadjusted misstatements with management, and you don't need to go and worry about another document to document any of this. Okay? Does the above agree to the schedule of misstatements? So this is really if you're not using the automatic linking, or if you're doing your own templates, make sure that you're completing this adequately. Where prior year modifications were not adjusted was a modification in the comparative information included in the current year audit report. So it's just asking you about, have you assessed the prior year adjustments when you've been doing your current year modifications? Were prior year adjustments made to the financial statements? So there were maybe prior unadjusted items that you had from the prior year, but because of maybe a change in materiality or a change in nature, you've actually gone and made those changes. If they have, go and document it. Have you done additional substantive testing to confirm those? And here we would then also go and list any current year emphasis of matter items, especially if they're coming out of this assessment of unadjusted misstatements. Then we talk about the management rep letter. What's the date of that management rep letter? What's the date recorded on the signed audit report? And it's looking at the dates to go and make sure that we're not sitting with hugely different dates and what has happened between those dates if necessary. And then we get to a partner conclusion, and it's a drop down. So are you satisfied that an appropriate auditor's opinion in the financial statements has been expressed, or are you not satisfied? Hopefully at this point you are satisfied and you can actually issue that audit report. If you say no, you're probably a little stuck. Okay, so it's just telling you, if you're not satisfied, document what changes need to be made to the audit report and why. Okay, because this is again, maybe you just need to make those changes, you document it, because out of that meeting you discussed something more. And then there is sign off for the partner, and that is then the final conclusion on your audit. All comes down to this final document. What is my conclusion? Am I happy?